everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name's Caitlin and today I'm talking about RIE parenting. RIE stands for Resources for Infant Educators, and this is a phrase coined by Magda Gerber, the founder herself. Magda is this amazing woman from Hungary who was a child therapist, a lecturer, and a consultant for many families on infant child care. She worked hand in hand with her pediatrician, Emmy Pickler, who I talk about often, in Budapest, before taking her teachings to Los Angeles, where she founded her RIE Institute. That was in 1980, and since that time she's passed away, but helped so many people and continues to help many families and mothers like myself, and of course children, to live in a much more peaceful, loving, and respectful environment. RIE is now kind of spearheaded by people like Lansbury and Lisa Sunbury Gruber. They have really fantastic websites. Janet Lansbury, I love her writing and both of her books, No Bad Kids and Elevating Childcare. I fell in love with RIE upon reading Roslyn Ross's book, A Theory of Objectivist Parenting, which I recommend every person read, regardless if you ever plan on having children. She recommended this book, Dear Parent, Caring for Infants with Respect by Magda Gerber. My philosophy on the parent-child relationship from both of these pieces of literature was forever changed. I would have been such a different parent had I not read these books. I would have such a different relationship with my son. Honestly, I think I would have a lot more difficult, trying times as a new mom. However, there are of course, things in every book that I read that I don't necessarily agree with, but I always try to stay so open-minded and really understand the author's perspective, especially if there's research behind it. I like to make sure that what I'm reading is ethical and also coincides with my needs as a mom and my son's needs. In general, I just want to have the most joyful, peaceful household possible, so of course I do what's best for me personally at all times. I have no choice. I don't make myself suffer. At the same time, I wouldn't recommend these books if I didn't pretty much agree wholeheartedly with everything in them. There are a few things, for example, I'll just cover them right off the get-go. We decided to use the baby-led weaning approach as far as feeding goes. We use a kind of rendered version of elimination communication, and we do give Donovan a pacifier when he's going to sleep because of the research that indicates it lowers the risk of SIDS. Those are really the three main things that are technically not on board with RIE, but at the same time, those work really well for us, so I don't mind. Let's go ahead and just get started with the root of RIE parenting, which is respect. Everyone interprets respect differently. For me, and for Magda Gerber, apparently, it's just this feeling of being listened to, heard, and considered as a whole person. There is scientific research that proves that babies are not like a potato when they first arrive here. They're whole conscious people from the moment they're born. For whatever reason, many people don't see it that way, and they definitely don't interact with their children that way. RIE asks that we begin to do that. A wonderful analogy that people like Magda Gerber and Janet Lansbury reference often is, imagine yourself as a much older person who can no longer use their physical body or verbally communicate with anyone, and paint a picture of how you would like to be cared for, how you would like to be interacted with. Apply that to the way you interact with your baby. I know that this made me personally stop and reflect on not just the interaction that I was going to have with my future baby, but I thought, how do I interact with all people? How can I give the most respect to every person that I interact with? What do I need to change about the way I interact with people now? And I don't think there's any possible harm in doing that. So if maybe you're skeptical about RIE, or you're skeptical about anything that I share in my videos, I don't think there's anything to be on the fence about when it comes to respecting your fellow human beings, especially not in the sense of your own children. The best possible way, Magda Gerber says, and I agree, to really enforce this sense of respect and this foundation of respect in your relationship between you and your baby is communication. How do you talk to your baby and how do you interact with them? Do you ask them before you pick them up, offer your hands and listen and look for some sort of response? Even the tiniest baby will have a response, and I know because from the moment Donovan was born, I always asked his permission before I did anything physical to him. I noticed a huge difference in the way that, he responded every day. He got more and more clear with how he needed to communicate to me. He almost never didn't want me to pick him up, but there were occasions where he was enjoying himself and he was fine. He didn't want to be picked up. But another example would be leaving the room. If you were at the brunch table and you needed to use the bathroom, would you just get up and leave? Or would you let your friend know, hey, 1 minute, I'm gonna be right back, I have to go to the bathroom? I think it's a much more polite option to go with the latter, but for some reason, many people don't do that with their babies. However, babies are whole, conscious people from the day they're born, and they definitely interpret every interaction that you have with them as normal. And you're creating their sense of reality, their sense of manners, their sense of respect from day one. Another good example, and it's so funny because I read this and I'm pretty sure this book, there was an anecdote from a mom that said she began telling her baby, who she noticed was startled every time she shut the car door, she began telling her baby, I'm going to shut the door now, and then would shut it. She noticed that her baby started closing her eyes to anticipate the shock of the loud sound. I just thought that was so sweet and tender and so respectful, and I definitely wanted to do that when I had my baby. I did this, and my son had the exact same reaction as an infant. And of course, there are two parts to communication: the way you speak to your baby and the way that you listen. It's not enough to just say, I'm going to pick you up now, and pick them up. You need to give your baby some sort of delay so that they can indicate to you somehow. And like I said, your babies are telling you so much if you just stop to listen, if you just stop to observe. And that's another huge principle of R.I.E. Before I talk about observing, I want to mention that it's also very important to communicate authentically to your baby. This means not always being the super cheerful, super loud, super smiley mom. We don't want to be dishonest to our babies. That's also creating some sort of weird reality for them in which they're actually confused, because just like adults, babies really can interpret the truth. You're saying so much more than you think you are throughout the course of a day, even when you're not speaking, of course. We all know that. So your baby is interpreting everything you're doing when you're next to them. And if you're feeling down and you're having a hard day and it is stressful to be a mom and you're trying to do everything in your power to make sure that they are cared for and happy and growing and developing properly and learning, they are going to definitely pick up on your energy, one. But two, your body language, facial expressions that you have, and in general, it's going to change the way that you interact with them. No matter how good of an actor you are, they know, and they're just going to be confused. Just make sure that you're speaking in a way that doesn't create some sort of false reality for them. On that same note of being big and out there, of course, babies, just like any other person, love a little bit of exaggerated gesture here and there. It's funny, when you're being silly. However, Magda Gerber and I urge you to talk to your baby just like you would any other person. And this is the funniest thing to catch yourself doing. I personally talk to my son like a complete moron sometimes, and then I think, wow, oh my gosh, I would never speak to Ben like that. Like, why did I just talk to him like that? Or why did I just ask him a question that was completely stupid? Donovan, hi, hey baby. Would I go up to any person and talk to them like that? No. So why do we speak to our babies this way? Why? I know people will say, but my baby loves when I talk to them like that. Okay. Yeah, but all of the time, your only interaction talking in some sort of weird, strange clown voice, it's creating a weird false reality for them, and it's not respectful. So back to observing. Magda Gerber's motto was observe more, do less. This has been such a gem in my parenting way of life. It's just really brought so much ease to my household and so much real peace of mind to the way that I interact with Donovan and his play and in general our daily life together. Okay, Donovan just woke up from his nap. He's here. Where was I? Right, observing. Okay, so babies are so competent and aware from day one. And we allow them to experience life and discover in life on their own without interruptions, accessories, teaching, and gadgets. They can become, hopefully, the most authentic version of themselves and confident young people. A couple of examples of observe more, do less would be independent playtime, just allowing your baby to explore their space and do whatever they can do. Observe whatever they want to observe. Don't push things into their face. Don't show them, this is how the block goes inside the square hole, right? This is how this... You don't have to teach them anything. In fact, the best learning that they're going to do will be... Excuse you? Is going to be self-taught. It's going to be all things that they've discovered on their own. And where the observation comes in during the independent playtime is if you really do want to allow them to, play alone and enjoy their freedom and not push anything on them, not show them how a toy works, not even show them a toy. One of the most amazing things to do during that independent time, as far as observation goes, is to literally leave your phone, leave your laptop, leave your book, whatever, and really challenge yourself to spend a solid amount of time just watching your baby. They start becoming more able-bodied people physically. It's just so amazing to watch. For example, I never put Donovan into a position he couldn't get into on his own because of the fact that I wanted to just observe him and allow him to develop naturally, which is my next topic. But watching him learn to do things for the, finally, because of course there are moments where in the midst of learning, for example, to roll over is what I'm thinking about, he would start, and not be able to go. Not be able to go. Or he would get over and then not be able to roll back the other way. And watching him be frustrated was horrible for me. I was like, I just want to tip him over, or I just want to help him. But the best help that I gave him was allowing him to discover it himself. Simply observe more and do less, and your children are going to become, like Magda Gerber says, more authentic, confident people. This, of course, does not mean that you need to just ignore your child's basic needs, by the way. If your child is hungry, don't just observe them being hungry. You need to feed them. This should be common sense, but I feel like the need to say that. A new trend that has developed, and maybe it's been existing forever, is the idea that sooner is better in terms of development for our babies. In RIE, we're told to wait. Let your baby discover everything, like I said, including their physical mobility, in their own way, at their own time. Emmy Pickler says in bulletin number 14 that we observe how easily and freely animals in the wild move. They're perfectly developed. That's because they're not accessorized. We don't place a baby jaguar in a walker when they're little to speed up the process and show them that they can do something that they're really incapable of doing. That goes for any other physical accessory that you put on your baby to make them think, I can stand, or I can walk, or I can sit up. These are all things that need to happen in their own time for your baby's best physical development, for their best alignment, best posture, etc., etc. Speaking of placing judgment, RIE focuses on a no judgment placing perspective, and a lot of people would say, of course I don't judge my baby, what are you talking about? But the truth is that this goes for even the most well-intentioned judgment and positive phrasing that makes for inauthentic children that really need praise and positive reinforcement from their moms or dads. Examples of this would be coming from more of a place of observation, even in your dialogue. Let's say your baby does roll over for the first time. It's perfectly fine to have an authentic response. Wow, you rolled over. That's That's perfectly fine because it's real. When you say yay and wow and good job to absolutely everything that your kids do that you think in your mind is good, you're teaching them that, you know, your praise is what they're actually after instead of their own discoveries and their accomplishments. So rather than wanting to do things on their own terms and investigate things out of their love for doing it, bless you, they'll naturally be inclined to trying to please you. We place judgment, good or bad, on our children's actions. It really takes a toll on their ability to be authentic people, to do things for themselves rather than for the approval or disapproval of their parent. R.I.E asks that we take more of a sportscasting approach, where we just are making general observations about our baby when they look for us to respond. For example, if Donovan does roll over and he looks at me like, I'm so proud, I just say, wow, Donovan, I see you rolled over. You look happy. And I know it sounds goofy, but when you stop to think about what your words are really doing and the impact that they have, this is a much better choice. Another concept in R.I.E is patronizing or objectifying or accessorizing your baby. And something to think about here is how other people interact with your baby. So for example, a ball you can pass around in a group of people. Let's say at a party you can pass around a ball, okay? People tend to pass around babies at parties, and I notice this a lot around the holidays. It's like, oh, I want to turn, I want to hold him, as opposed to really considering that he is a person and not an object. Once again, people are so well-intentioned. They just want to show their love, they want to show their affection. Another example would be, would you go up to a stranger in the grocery store and poke their tummy? Do you ever do that without a potential lawsuit happening? However, people constantly come to me and Donovan, and they just touch him, poke him, and they say ah to his belly and do. And I think so many times these people are so sweet and they're so kind-hearted to feel such an inclination to come and interact with my baby. Like, they must be such sweet people, because sweet people like babies, right? However, they're technically objectifying my baby, like he's a little object and he has no feelings, or he can't interpret the fact that they're like a complete stranger making a physical connection to his body. But it is what it is. Do you want to say hi? Poke, 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 poke. I'm just kidding. People tend to treat babies like objects or accessories. And that's a no-no in R.I.E. Treat your baby like a person, because they're a person. Mentioned before, wait. Waiting is another really big concept in R.I.E. And it's in terms of just allowing your baby the privilege and freedom of once again making certain discoveries when they're ready. And not placing judgment, since we've covered that, on the way that they're playing or interacting, because they are learning. Waiting it out is one of the hardest things about R.I.E, but frustration is a very real part of being a person and being alive. So allowing your baby to be frustrated and just waiting with them in a supporting, loving way while they do or explore something is so vital. When Donovan was much smaller and first able to kind of roll around and grasp for things, I was always inclined to immediately return to him whatever he pushed away, especially when he would push a ball and watch it roll, knowing full well that he cannot crawl to it and he can't go get it, and I know he wants it, and I'm like, God, I'm dying inside, I just want to go give him the ball. Like, why can't I do that, Caitlin? Oh, he's got my tripod now. It was always eye-opening every time, because he would always figure out a solution, and that is the reason in which, and that is the reason that we wait. Our children then can become problem solvers. They can think critically, and who doesn't want their kid to be a critical thinker? That's like the foundation of being a functional human being as an adult. It's amazing to see how quickly our children can become either passive or critical thinkers and problem solvers. So when you do solve the problems for your kids all the time, when they're small especially, they become, problem solvers by allowing you to solve the problem. And guess what? That leads to a very fussy, very frustrated baby when you're not at their beck and call. It does not allow for beautiful things like independent, self-guided, self-directed play, because every time that your baby experiences something that they're unsure of, or something that they don't know how to rectify, they're going to cry for you. They're going to need you to solve the problem for them. Allow your baby the privilege and the enjoyment of solving problems on their own. Something I love about RIE is how much they advocate for outdoor play and just being outside from day one. We implement going to a park or a grassy area every single day without fail. In fact, when Donovan was very little, I made sure that one of his naps was outdoors. But I am the biggest advocate for being outside and just enjoying what nature has to offer. It's the best medicine and it's the best teacher in my opinion, so that's a simple one. Get outside. Another great RIE concept is to give your full undivided attention to your baby when you're in the middle of caregiving acts, such as changing them, bathing them, or feeding them. One thing that I know Janet Lansbury always talks about is her no cell phone breastfeeding challenge, and that's to just literally not touch anything, not be engaged in anything but feeding your baby when you're nursing. RIE asks that you really take that time to be there and to really just connect. The same thing goes for changing your baby, making it a gentle, loving experience rather than a rushed and distracted experience. The thing about RIE is that they're just always trying to include the baby, make sure that they're engaged in what's happening to them at all times. When we give our baby undivided attention, they're feeling the purest form of love. I mean, I don't know about you watching. I know personally that I feel a very, very big difference between a friend that is constantly checking their phone when I'm talking to them and a friend that's fully engaged and attentive to me when I'm spending my time with them. I feel a lot more loved by the second one than the first, and your baby probably does too. Making my day predictable for Donovan has been so beneficial for our relationship because I almost always know what basic human needs have not been met and when they need to be met and why he's upset if he's upset. I pretty much always know because of our routine, and because Donovan is used to his routine. When it's not lining up with his expectations, he'll let me know. Imagine how much easier that would make communicating and understanding one another, which is the basis of any healthy relationship, but especially when the other person can't really do much for themselves. For RIE parents, it's very important to create a yes space. So a space in your home where your baby is free to play, enjoy, and explore without the stress of you constantly telling them, no, 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 don't touch that. No, 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 don't go there. No, 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 that's not safe. Create a space that's completely baby-proofed and safe for them to just enjoy themselves without you in the room. That way you really can just relax, and they can relax as well. RIE's take on a crying baby is one of my favorite aspects of the whole philosophy. Rather than looking at crying when all of the human needs are met, your baby is clean, not hungry, not tired, but just crying, as we would say, fussy. RIE parents don't look at it as some sort of inconvenience or annoyance. We look at it as a wonderful opportunity to communicate our love and our tenderness and our respect for our children. Is it easy? Not always. However, it becomes much easier when I consider how I would respond to a friend who is in pain. If my friend or my spouse, whoever, came to me crying, telling me, I just had a horrible day, or I'm just feeling horrible, I would not tell them, well, you need to stop crying, first of all. Here's a pacifier. I most definitely would not tell them, you're okay, you're gonna be okay, you're fine, and shake them or pat them or swivel them around, or put them in the car and say, you know what, I know what'll make you better. Let's go for a drive. Let's just drive around until you fall asleep. These are not things I would do to my friend, nor my baby. If my son has been having a hard time for whatever reason, you know, he's just not having a good day, as opposed to just shutting him up, which it sounds so harsh, but I don't shush him, I don't bounce him, I don't shake him. I tell him one thing over and over again, and that's, I'm here. Any time in my life when I've just been having a hard time and acted out, or acted in a way that's out of character for me, or I've just been crying and I don't even know what's wrong, because that happens to adults too. I just needed somebody to tell me that they're here. They understand how it feels sometimes. I can't really think of a more loving thing to do for another person than to simply listen and be there. And so that is the RIE approach to crying. Magda Gerber recommends reading this book called The Art of Loving by Erich Fromm. She says that love in action is caring. To love another person is to be available for them, not intrusive. Last thing that she says in her section on loving is the following. Dear parent, we all agree that babies need love. Most people associate parental love with the easy solutions of holding, nursing, cuddling. What is much more difficult is to find the balance between holding on and letting go. It is a lifelong struggle and maybe the hardest part of parenting. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope it gave you some insight into what RIE is and what being a RIE parent is like. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and if you learned something from it. The best thing for me ever is reading your comments and getting to know you a little bit better and understanding your perspective. So please feel free to leave me something that you love about RIE, or something that you learned, or something that you want to know more about in the comments. I would be so happy to respond to you, and I will see you on the next one.